Today, Colorado's Supreme Court disqualifies Donald Trump from the ballot. The French government passes a tough new immigration law but faces internal fractures, and a volcano finally erupts in Iceland. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Wednesday the 20th of December 2023. In major news from the United States, the Colorado Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump is ineligible for the presidency, removing him from the state's primary ballot and setting the stage for a showdown as to whether he can run for the presidency at all. Specifically, the Colorado Supreme Court, in a 4-3 decision, disqualified Trump from the state's primary ballot on the basis of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the US Constitution, which states that no person can hold any office if they previously took an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States, with Trump deemed to have incited an insurrection for his role in the January the 6th attack on the US Capitol. The ruling itself only mentions Colorado's presidential primary, set to be held on March the 5th, but it could also affect Trump's ability to get on the ballot in the state for the actual election. Similar attempts to disqualify Trump from the ballot have failed in other states like Minnesota, Michigan, and New Hampshire. The key arguments are whether or not Trump is an insurrectionist, given that he's not been convicted of insurrection, but has been impeached for inciting one, and whether or not the president counts as an officer of the United States. The Colorado Supreme Court ruled that yes, Trump did engage in insurrection, and yes, the insurrection ban does apply to the office of president. The court, however, said the effect of its ruling would be delayed until at least January the 4th, 2024, to allow for an appeal. The Trump campaign called the Colorado decision completely flawed and vowed to appeal to the US Supreme Court, which would set the stage for the 6-3 conservative majority court to rule on Trump's eligibility for president. If Trump is indeed disqualified from the Colorado ballot, it alone probably wouldn't have a significant impact on the presidential result, as the state is considered solidly Democrat. However, it could have negative down-ballot consequences for congressional and local Republican candidates to not have Trump at the top of the ballot paper. More crucially, though, if Trump's disqualification in Colorado is upheld, it could set a precedent and add momentum to efforts in other states to use the 14th Amendment to declare Trump ineligible. The Biden campaign has not yet commented on the ruling, while the Republican Party has thrown its weight behind Trump, declaring the court decision as election interference. Even his rivals for the Republican nomination have spoken out against the ruling. For example, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley said, "We don't need to have judges making these decisions. We need voters to make these decisions. We're going to win this the right way." There's more on the way, but be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make the daily briefing part of your daily routine, or just search for us on your podcast app to listen along. The French government's controversial immigration bill has been approved by the National Assembly, delivering a policy victory for President Emmanuel Macron, but one which could potentially fracture his centrist alliance, as the bill earned the support of Marine Le Pen's National Rally. It had initially been rejected in the National Assembly, with left-wing opponents criticising it as too harsh, and right-wing opponents saying it wasn't harsh enough. Having been rejected, Macron's government sent the immigration bill to a joint parliamentary committee, aiming to reach a consensus. It was in this committee that the government toughened up the bill by introducing provisions for migration quotas, the ability to strip dual national convicts of French nationality, and delaying migrants' access to social benefits by several years. In response to these changes, National Rally leader Marine Le Pen declared it an ideological victory and said her lawmakers would vote in favour of the bill, as did the right-wing Republicans. Lawmakers from the left accused Macron of enabling the far right, and there were 27 MPs from Macron's own coalition that voted against, with one deciding to leave the grouping altogether and reports that Macron's health minister had resigned. One point of contention is whether or not the bill only passed because of the National Rally, as Macron had promised not to enact the legislation if it only passed thanks to their support. The government claims it did not need the National Rally votes, as had they abstained, it would have still passed, though opponents have pointed out that if National Rally voted against, it would have failed. Meanwhile, a former Haitian senator has been sentenced to life in prison by a US court for his role in the assassination of Haiti's president, Jovenel Moïse, who was killed by gunmen during an attack on his residence on July 7, 2021. Former Senator John Joel Joseph had pleaded guilty to 3 charges, which included conspiring to kill and kidnap a person outside the US and provide material support to carry out a plot to kill. He pleaded guilty in October, becoming the 3rd to do so out of 11 defendants, who include a number of Colombian mercenaries accused of actually carrying out the killing and a foreign businessman thought to have financed the plot. The assassination of Moïse further destabilised the already struggling Haiti, where the governing institutions have largely collapsed and armed gangs have extended their control over the Caribbean nation. In the grips of a massive humanitarian and political crisis, the United Nations Security Council in October approved the creation of a Kenyan-led international policing mission to the country, following repeated requests from acting President Ariel Henry. By the way, we made a video about this potential intervention in Haiti, so give it a watch if you're interested. In other news, a volcano near the Icelandic town of Grindavik has begun erupting after weeks of intensifying seismic activity. Iceland's meteorological office has warned that the fumes from the eruption could reach the capital Reykjavik on Wednesday. The town of Grindavik, with a population of nearly 4,000, was evacuated last month due to the seismic activity, and authorities say the eruption does not pose a threat to life. The eruption, lighting the sky red, ejected lava and smoke more than 100 metres into the air, and was reportedly visible from Reykjavik, which is around 30 kilometres northeast of the volcanic fissure. Fortunately for those worried about a repeat of the 2010 Icelandic eruption and the ash cloud that significantly disrupted international travel, the government has said there are no disruptions to flights to and from Iceland, and international flight corridors remain open. And finally, in some uplifting news, a new study has revealed just how resilient California's famous redwood trees are, with new sprouts emerging through the charred remains of trees burned by wildfires. The study found that the trees tapped into their carbon reserves formed 50 to 100 years ago, as well as previously dormant bud tissues. Drew Peltier, the lead author behind the study, said that in the case of the burned redwoods in Big Basin State Park, carbon photosynthesized from the atmosphere more than 50 years ago is now being used as energy to grow new leaves, which, according to Peltier, is a really long time for sugars to stick around. That's all for today, but if you want more from us, then you should pick up a copy of our newspaper, Too Long. And if you've been considering it for a while, then this week only the code TLDRDAILY will get you 30% off. So it's the ideal time to buy. If you don't know, Too Long is our one-off newspaper which summarises everything that happened in 2023, as well as looking forward to 2024. It's full of exclusive analysis and explainers from the TLDR team, as well as a whole bunch of our favourite creators. We also put a ton of effort into the design, putting together a load of high-quality graphics and designs. As I say, if you want a copy, you can head over to our website and secure 30% off the normal price by using the code TLDRDAILY.